want your Cosmo back. The people have their happiness back. That's at least what's going down in the happiness index this week. The headlines are buzzing, and it literally happened after our show last week. So I'm a little bummed about it because the University of Michigan's consumer sentiment index came out. So there's like two headlines around Michigan. Yes, their coaches ditching them. And then now we've got the sentiment index that's come out, and it is making headlines everywhere because of just the double-digit growth that we're seeing, not only from December, but also just year over year. And we're reporting the highest levels it's been since 2021. And so everyone's feeling better. Inflation is cooling. It's the largest 2-month gain since 1991. And like I said, it's risen nearly 60% above the all-time low. And so people are feeling so good. And the headlines came out like this: Washington Post, economic vibes are finally improving. Axios, the economic mood is improving fast. The Wall Street Journal, consumer sentiment logs the biggest jump in decades. So everyone's feeling good, guys. We're snappy, we're happy, we're riding this wave. And as a result, markets felt a little good, but also the GDP gave it another boost as it outperformed market expectations at 3.3%. And so how are you guys feeling? I mean, are you feeling happy?
Were you at NRF, Jess?
I wasn't. I didn't have a chance to go.
There was a lot of optimism. I'm personally, selling B2B SaaS, so it's not necessarily a direct consumer thing, but they indirectly kind of it bleeds through that. I just felt like everyone was kind of seemed to be back in. We want to build and grow again, as opposed to 23, which I'm happy to put in the rearview mirror. It was a grinder of a year because everyone just was so unsure and uncertain, and so I feel a lot of optimism for whatever that's worth.
It was an interesting week. The markets went nuts. I think that there was a lot of momentum behind that. And I think that while the numbers themselves, both with wage increases and the, um, you know, our happiness index, I will be the thorn in your side, Jess. I apologize, but my daughter looked out the window the other day and she's like, "Daddy, what are they doing?" And she's 7, and they were like putting the boot on a car and then like towing it. And she's like, "Well, why do they do that?" I'm like, "Well, because people don't make their car payments, they take their car back." And I think that, that's real. It's almost like when someone comes in and says, "We're up 30%." Okay, great, but you were down 60% last year. So you're comping that number. It's a false positive. And I think that we are on some level with wages. If you look at some of these numbers that we put together, 55% of Americans or greater are living paycheck to paycheck. And most of them don't have like 3 months of savings, which is needed for job loss. A lot of them are in hourly positions and don't have benefits. And when you think about, missed payments, late payments, and then what that does to a person's credit rating and the death spiral that effectively as a consumer it sends you into, it's tough. And so I can't dispute the numbers. They were good. I think that they are not telling the story about the American consumer and family and its inability. MIT did the living wage survey, and I looked at it today. And in New York City, where I live, you need $88,000 salary for a family of 4. Okay, I go into CVS, I go into Walgreens, I go in to get a burger, I go in to pick anything up, gas. Those people aren't making $88,000. I'm still a bear on the next 6 months. I'm hearing just what Jason's hearing. There's positivity potentially coming. I just think that there's still a reckoning with debt, election, uncertainty, and most importantly, the inability of people to have a living wage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of moving parts. I feel like people can tell me just about anything about the economy, and I'll like scratch my, say like that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, geopolitical pressure, etc. I do think that with the consumer index, though, if you think about what's happened since 2020 with the inflation that's the kind of year over year, we've gone down to lower growth rate in inflation. It took a while to kind of absorb those multiple years of 10, 20% inflation, right? And so I think part of this is just the lag effect of getting through that in terms of these consumer indexes.
I'll make one more point, and this is from experience. We were negotiating a private label credit card deal with someone who shall remain nameless, and they ultimately turned us down because our consumer paid their bills on time. And so I think that if you look at the predatory nature of credit, the necessity and the pitfall, we have issues. And I think that we don't and can't regulate ourselves to spend within our means, but we can't do that because we don't have the means to live in this. We're in this really interesting place that I think still has to be worked out. So